Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello everybody and welcome to the latest edition of the Liverbirds pod. It has been a little bit of a gap since the last one. There's been quite a bit going on, both sporting and non-sporting wise, which has impacted our ability to get together and talk, but we are back and we're delighted to be with you. I've got my regular contributors, Amy, Kate and Randy on the pod today, and we've got a lot of stuff to unpack, frankly, so we're going to get straight into it. Welcome, ladies. I would like to start by going back a couple of games, if that's all right, and talk about the Man City game, because there was a lot going on, both before, after, and on the pitch. So, Amy, Kate, let me start with you. Had a sort of few days to reflect and look back on the Man City game. What was your sort of abiding memory of that game?
Well, that we won, of course. I don't think that anybody thought that we had the fight or that we were, going to win it. I think it was just like, oh, we'll take a draw, just get through this. And, we were brilliant. It was just, you saw the Liverpool that we know we are. It was just, and I just remember being so ecstatic because I don't think anybody expected it. And, even though I'm an optimist, I kind of was like, okay, we can do this. We have it. But I didn't expect it to be the way it was. And I was just so proud of how we played. And Milner, what a beast. I mean, everybody's written him off. He's 36. He needs to go, and he showed why he's still here. So it was incredible. It was just such an amazing game. And Gomez, showed why he deserves a spot in the first team. So yeah, it was good. Great to see Elliot out there. I thought
Elliot had a cracking game.
Yeah.
I mean, there's very few that didn't in that, but Randy, were you of the same view? Because clearly, we'd had a number of injuries coming into the game. Our form wasn't brilliant. What were you thinking about? Ahead of the game. What was your sort of best case scenario? Were you on the kind of optimism train and just thought, it doesn't matter, we'll raise our game and we'll beat City?
I was dreading it, I can't lie. I was a bit anxious. So I think what I did was, sort of putting my expectations very low. So I didn't get disappointed, and I didn't, because what happened was actually, amazing. We looked so olden days, I must say. And of course, we did play 4-3-3, and they looked like everyone was holding the line. We looked like everyone was having actual positions that they know what to do in, which we haven't seen a lot of. So it was so much going on. That was Erling Haaland didn't get there because he was held all the time. They were always there looking after him, disturbing him, and that's what he doesn't like. So it was so good to see. And also, Salah looked like old Salah, doing counterattacks with Ali and, all that. It was brilliant. So why we haven't continued doing that, that's more my question. But it was really, really good. And Fab was Fab again, you know. It was so many things that was good again. And Nunez looking sharp, even though he didn't get a goal. But we have to, I don't think we can stop talking about that game before we talked about what happened all around it, because Klopp and Pep being as lunatics as each other on the sideline, and of course only one of them got sent off, and the referee, you know, I mean, what was he on and what's happening, and why have they all of a sudden decided that nothing is going to be a foul anymore, and then all of a sudden something little is a foul? Because I don't know, you don't know anymore what's going on with the refs.
Well, there's a couple of things in there for me. So firstly, in terms of the referee, I mean, in this particular instance, specifically the disallowing of the Man City goal, I mean, there were two fouls in that, and how, you know, Man City can complain and say that they weren't fouls was sort of just bizarre to me, because if they weren't giving it for the shirt pull on Fabinho, then
Silva.
They had to give it for kicking the ball out of Alisson's hands.
Yeah.
So that's one piece. But we've talked about him before, and I don't, you know, the game wasn't about him, but unfortunately he was more prominent than he should have been. Anthony Taylor is a terrible referee. He's also Manchester born and bred. His family, I'm fairly sure, hold season tickets at one or other of the Manchester clubs. There is no way that he should be in charge of games between Liverpool and any Manchester club. And I really find it frustrating, because, you know, he's not good enough, and the fact is that he's shown it on more than one occasion that he's not good enough to referee that high profile level of game. Now, when you talk about, you know, Klopp and Pep and all of it on the sideline, I mean, Pep Guardiola is, I mean, there's points, and I don't know if you've seen it, Salah's goal, where they're running like two films at the same time. So you can see Salah running, and you can see Guardiola throwing himself to his knees.
He knows what's going to happen.
And Salah just like goes herring off towards Ederson. But he was doing stuff like that all game. We know.
And he was inside the pitch twice. Yeah. That is not allowed in my book. You know, I don't know about David's book.
It's the laws of the game.
Well, he is above that, you see. It's the same as pulling shirts on Salah. That is also allowed, apparently. Well, pulling him down and backing into him and trying an elbow is also allowed.
And that is the, you know, the little like shithousery of Bernardo Silva. I really despise him. You know, we know how he's behaved. We know it's like the only thing that could have been better for me is if he'd been the one that had been spun by Salah before he went off and scored the goal. That would have just been Bernardo Silva. But Amy Kate, you know, we are sort of talking about double standards here, you know, and Klopp, to be fair to him, has sort of said, you know what, yeah, you know, I did get carried away, probably deserved the red card, shouldn't have behaved like that. But, you know, the fact is that the opposite manager was no better behaved in a lot of things, but was not treated the same.
Right. And that's what makes it really unfair. You know, I'm not arguing that Klopp didn't deserve what he got. He was passionate. He was out of line. He you know, frustrated. and did what he did, but he owns it, right? You know, we're not arguing that he didn't deserve it, but how can you have the double standards? But like you said, and I was going to mention it, but you already did, you know, when you've got a referee that is from the greater Manchester area, it's just so unfair. And it's the quality of Premier League referees already are bad enough.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't even get called up for the World Cup. You know, that says something in my book. So it's just, there's got to be other referees out there, but you know, is it because of the corruption? Is it just bad luck? What is it? You know, it's just it's not right, whatever it is. And you know, stepping out of the technical box is breaking a rule. So if one can do it, then the other can, or vice versa. And it's just really, really bad that they just don't happen to see things per se. We just didn't see it there. We saw it here. That's why we called it. No, you know, that's
I mean, it is, but the bit that's more frustrating, which is, you know, and like I say, I'm not justifying, you know, how Klopp behaved, but I do have sympathy with why he was so irate, because that foul from Bernardo Silva on Salah, which, I mean, it went on for about 25 seconds straight in front of the assistant referee. Now, if you're an assistant referee, well, we don't call them linesmen or linespeople anymore. If you're assistant referee, surely because you could be a referee in a game, therefore you must have been trained to understand the laws of the game. How can you not see that is it is a multiple foul, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It is a trip. It is a shirt pull. It is an elbow. It is. I mean, at every single stage, it is a foul, and yet it happened directly in front of him, and he saw nothing. And that to me is more egregious than you know, the fact that, you know, Klopp got sent off and he'll take his punishment, and that's fine. The bit that we do need to talk about as well, though, is you know, Guardiola saying that some of the crowds were throwing coins at him, because if that is also true, that is bang out of order. And actually it does nothing in terms of our reputation,
right?
Actually, giving us any moral high ground to stand on, if some of our so-called supporters are doing that. And, you know, hopefully if they were doing it, they will be identified, they will be found out, and they will be banned.
Absolutely.
Now, that's the other thing. But then you go, and this is the thing, I don't want to get into this kind of whataboutery sort of stuff around it, but we know, and it's been highlighted before around, you know, away supporters coming to Anfield, singing about Hillsborough, singing about murderers, singing around, you always victim, this. And Man City fans did that, or so-called fans did that. I don't know how many of them. I don't know what proportion of that away support, but enough of them that
you could hear it.
Right? And it's only, you know, 3 days after, or whatever it is, that Guardiola has come out and sort of said, oh, you know, that's not who we are, and you know, and I'm very sorry if you know, so some of our fans did that. They've done that the last 3-4 times we've played them. So it either is them, or it, and he's just, you know, he's denying the reality. But it's also part of this that, you know, I genuinely think they're trying to manufacture a rivalry that never existed. Because actually, if you go back far enough, ourselves and Man City were sort of united in our hatred of Man United. Whereas now, you know, we can talk about the kind of, you know, with their sort of, you know, sovereign wealth and all the rest of it. And so, you know, that we'll come on to these supposedly xenophobic comments from what? You know, the fact is that nobody, I think what really, really winds them up is that nobody cares about what they do, because they don't have the history, they don't have the traditional rivalries. The only rivalry they ever really had was with Man United, and they didn't have that for years because they weren't even in the same division as them for a long time.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, a lot of people go, oh, you know, Man City, you know, they played, you know, football, and Guardiola's a genius and blah, blah, blah. And the fact is, it's interesting, and I do talk to fans of a variety of different clubs, and a lot of them say to me, oh, you know, love Kevin De Bruyne, you know, Haaland's a beast, this, that, and the other. But they go, it's a bit boring. So, you know, watching Man City, they just, you know, it's really quite boring because they just do the same thing over and over and over again, and it's it becomes a procession, and we've talked about it before. But frankly, without us, the last 4 seasons, you know, the Premier League season would have been over by March, February. Yeah. There would have been no competition. The fact that we're struggling a bit this season is, in some ways, maybe it's understandable with everything that we gave last season, but I don't understand why they have no sense of irony or shame about how they're behaving, and also about how their hierarchy responds to any perceived criticism of the club or of the regime that funds them, or the fact of their dodgy sponsorship funds or whatever else it might be. So sorry, that was a bit of a ramble.
That's all right.
That's fine.
What we're here for. Get it out.
Yeah.
But can I just say something about that excuse from Pep?
Yes, of course.
Because it is not really an excuse, because what he says is that if that happened, we're really sorry. That means, first of all, he doesn't acknowledge that it actually happened. You can hear it. You can just see and hear it. It's not a problem. And so, first of all, they should rather find out what happened and then say, of course, we're sorry, but we are going to find them and give them a punishment. Like we said when they were accusing us of throwing something, we were going, well, we're going to investigate that and find the people that did it, if that happened, because that was actually not obviously to see. And we're going to punish them. Isn't this what we should do? So it's just such a poor excuse. It's just waving it away. We don't care, you know. And I think that's why this is not going to stop, because people are not actually punished for doing that. It happens all the time now. Every match we play, that happens.
Pretty much every ground we go to.
Yeah.
It happened at Forest. They were doing it.
Because nobody sees it and nobody talks about it in the press.
Oh no,
it's not a problem.
They see it, they hear it, they just choose not to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And
it's a small amount of people, though. That's why they're trying to push into the press. Because, you know, playing devil's advocate here, there was a banner that I saw on social media that, you know, Forrest recognized, you know, the 97 and everything. So it's not everybody.
Of course it's not, and that's why I would think it would be easy to punish them. It's not the
majority either. It's you're right. A lot of them actually really do appreciate what that is and what we've gone through as fans, and what the families, more importantly, what the families have had to endure all this time, you know. And you know, there's so many fans now that weren't even alive when this happened and don't even know, you know, on both sides, right? Because this has gone on 30 some odd years.
But no, this is the thing, because it, you know, the fans have been exonerated, but people just They don't care. They're not interested in the truth, and the stupidity of this, right?
Yeah.
Is that it was a timing thing. It could have been Notts Forest. It could have been Spurs, right?
Yeah.
Because these issues came up in previous years. The fact was, we were incredibly unfortunate, and it was the sort of tragedy of what happened to Liverpool Football Club. But Nottingham Forest fans, a proportion of them that sang that, right? They are a fucking disgrace, because it could have been them, right? They're but for the, if you believe him, they're but for the grace of God and the timing and the factors. It could have been them the year before. It could have been Spurs the year before. The fact was, it wasn't. It was us. And to the cover up and the all of that stuff. We are incredibly fortunate that, in terms of the strength of mind and the resilience and the sheer bloody mindedness of the families of the 97 and the city of Liverpool, the fact that they weren't prepared to be, treated that way, despite the best efforts of the establishment and the various institutions that were supposed to be there to protect and to hold people to account. And that's the thing that I find most distasteful about this, is particularly for Nottingham Forest, because they were there that day, and in previous years it could have been them, because the issues at Leppings Lane and at Hillsborough were known and were not properly dealt with. So I find that, that really grinds my fucking gears, frankly. The other thing that I was sort of interested in, because this is the thing with Jurgen Klopp, is he goes into his press conferences and he gets asked these questions by journalists who, they know why they're asking the question. He knows why they're asking the question. They know he knows why they're asking the question. And even when he answers the question, he says, I will give you money, but you know what the answer is. You just want, to make a headline. Now, where he can just choose to not answer the question, but that's not his style. And for the hierarchy at Man City and their, pet journalists, whoever the hell they've rolled out, to try and turn around and say it's xenophobic, for him to state facts that says PSG, Man City, and Newcastle don't have a financial ceiling in the same way as other clubs do, because of how they're funded. It's so disingenuous, and it's all part of this. It's sort of that Trumpian approach. Don't do the question, just throw a load of shit, right, and try and distract from the fact that actually he answered the question honestly. And if most football supporters took their fucking blinkers off, instead of going, oh, it's Jurgen Klopp moaning again. He wasn't moaning. He was answering a question he was asked. And what was interesting for me, sorry, I'm on another rant now.
Go on.
When I was going up to the City game, it was an absolute nightmare travelling, because Avanti West Coast are if we get to any other business, I might just talk about Avanti West Coast Railway, right? They are an absolute joke. They can't provide a service. So long story short, it was not a good journey, and I couldn't get a direct train to Liverpool, so I had to take the Manchester train and then change at Stafford. And whilst I was sat on the train going to Manchester, people came and sat down around the table that I was at, and they were all Man U supporters. And they were going, I can't remember who, were Man U playing Spurs or so. Anyway, whoever it was, right? So they were going to Old Trafford. And they were sitting there chatting amongst themselves and saying they were, really looking forward to, really hoping that Liverpool got battered by City and blah, 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 which, you fully expect. I wasn't saying anything. I was just sitting there minding my own business. And then one of the guys started saying, "Oh yeah, Klopp's moaning again about money, and they spent all of this money." And to be fair to this one man,
Says who?
yeah, to this one Man U fan out of this group, he said to be fair, he said he wasn't talking about he said he was talking about PSG, Man City, and Newcastle in terms of like their funding model and its sovereign wealth. And the other guy said, oh well, I didn't. He said, I just saw the headline, and I'll tell you. And that's the thing, that's what you're up against because we're in this era where it's just clickbait, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the headlines genuinely bear little or no resemblance to what the actual story is, and I find it incredibly frustrating because I'm not expecting rival fans to listen to Jurgen Klopp's press conferences, but I am expecting some level, or would hope for some level of journalistic integrity that he'd actually accurately report it. But the problem is that I guess the sub-editors who do the headlines got nothing to do with the reporters who actually give them the copy. But it just builds this false narrative that just keeps going on and on and on. And I feel really angry on his behalf, and I'm sure he doesn't give a shit, but he gets, he's wrongly accused of saying things and doing things when actually all he's doing is answering a question. Anyway, that's it. I've got that off my chest there.
Well done.
But on the game itself, right? Because there was so much to pick around it, but on the game itself, there are a couple of things that I have to agree with. I thought as a team we were magnificent, and I thought that was the Liverpool that we all thought we were going to see throughout the season that we haven't really seen at all. It was like they stood up to be counted against that game, and one of the things, because having finally got to Liverpool and got into the ground thing, sometimes with those games it feels like time is going through treacle and it's just taking forever. That game went so fast for me in the ground. It felt like every time I try not to look at the scoreboard because it feels like time has stopped.
Yeah.
Every time I looked, it felt like 10 minutes. I thought it was 2 minutes. I looked up and another 10 minutes had gone. And I was saying to one of my friends, I said, I'm going to do this in 5-minute blocks. I said, because if we don't concede in the first 5 minutes, that's a win.
Yeah.
It's been going this season. And then it was fine. And I was going, oh, it's 20 minutes gone already. 35 minutes. Right, we haven't said. And it went on like that, and the game. So I don't know what it was like watching it, on the TV or listening on the radio, whatever you were doing, but being there in the ground, it felt like it went by in a flash, and it wasn't. It was the game was so intense, and there were so many, moments where things could have turned, but it was the flashpoint was the disallowed goal, ironically. And Guardiola turned into the ground and, turned into the main stand and flowing his arms around. And it was just like, we just went, fuck it. Let's turn it up to 12 then. And the place just went mad.
Are you that person who has everything? The coolest merch and those must-have fan threads? Well, over at our Anfield Index shop, we've gone that extra mile when it comes to pimping up your Liverpool collection. From our popular range of bespoke design t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies and hats, to our signature edition mugs, prints and coasters, all provided with fast worldwide shipping. We have something for every red. We also stock official LFC merchandise and are licensed with the Premier League and UEFA to sell official iron-on shirt badges and sleeve patches. As a listener to this podcast, you can get 10% off everything with coupon code AIPRO10. Just head over to AnfieldIndex.shop or find us on Etsy by searching for Anfield Index.
And I don't know if that came across on the TV.
Yeah.
but everything just went up by about 4 notches after that.
Mm.
And it just felt like there was an electrical charge had gone through the team. But yeah, I mean, James Milner, he was outstanding. And the whole team were brilliant. But particularly because we were in the pub before, and we were there going, oh yeah, one of the guys was saying, well, I bought my boots just in case, and running out of boots. But yeah, to a man, they stood up to be counted, and I couldn't have been prouder of them.
It was wonderful, and you could actually sort of feel the intensity through the television as well, and
Absolutely.
the fans, and I mean everything about it. The spectacle, completely mayhem, and so much energy, and I mean Shorter in that match. I mean he was everywhere, and the 3 assists. For Salah, it was just absolutely mad.
Yeah.
No, that was not this game though. But I mean later on. But the way he worked in this match, and the fact that he was not taken off, and you could see how tired he was. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's not a good. It didn't end up well for him.
No, it didn't. But everyone just looked so at it, and as you said, when you see James Milner, and you think, oh no, we think the stereotype. Isn't he too old?
And what I was most surprised about actually was that Alexander-Arnold was on the bench. That was what I was most.
Yes, that's right.
I was really surprised he was in the squad at all. So that was, that was a bit of a bolt out of the blue. But yeah, so again, magnificent. But you only get 3 points for it. And I remember saying afterwards, in fact, I think I tweeted as well, which was, I was so happy, buzzing about it. But the most important game now was West Ham, because it would count for nothing if we slipped up against West Ham. So. Let's talk a bit about the West Ham game, because that was, that was I'd say the emergence. It's probably unfair to him, but maybe people starting to realise, some of what Núñez brings to the team. Did you manage to? So let me check with both of you. Did you both manage to see the game? Because I know Randi. That there's, things have changed. There's different providers, and it's not as easy to see stuff for you now on certain Liverpool games.
Yeah, this is one of the ones I managed to see half of it and listen to half of it because the streams were so bad, and I was listening to the LFC TV half of it. And it's just what I've got from that, both listening and looking at it, and of course looking at the summing up afterwards, is like Núñez in that match, as you say, he sort of came to life, and you can see his threats. I mean, his first try, it was such a boom shot, it was it should have been in. And then the brilliant cross from Costas that led to the goal. And that was not a fluke, by the way. You look how really, really smart he is with his heading there. And he could have had another one as well. He had one in the post, didn't he? And I think him and Alisson in that match, they made that game because, of course, the pen save. And I was really happily surprised for Alisson, because as good a keeper he is the best in the Premier League, I think. But he hasn't got a history of saving pens, does he? So that was so nice to see. And we should have had 3 or 4 more goals, I think. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first half performance, particularly Amy Kate, you'd argue we should have put that game away.
Yeah.
It definitely turned into a game of 2 halves. What did you make of it?
Well, I was going to say about the penalty with Allison, though, that was brilliant. And there was a lot. I'm trying to remember now because it was, a few games ago. But if I remember correctly, I mean, we didn't play pretty. It was an ugly game, but it was a win after all. And I remember, being very nervous during that because it didn't seem like the same team that was out for it, like we were with City. And then, like you said, totally two different games, the first and second half. And just towards it was just I don't know. It was just one of those things that you see it and you're just like, are we going to fall apart? Are we going to win? And, in the end we did. And it was great, but I was nervous through the whole time. And I don't know. There was something about that game that just, we should have just won, and we couldn't get the ball in the net. And it was frustrating.
It certainly was. It was a magnificent save by Ali.
Oh, absolutely.
Penalty. And it was, I don't know what happened, but you think about how controlled Gomez was against City, and it felt like he had this, I don't know, rush of blood to the head or something for that challenge. And then I think we do have to give a bit of credit to West Ham in the second half as well, because they gave it a right good go. But yeah, we, and I think that's maybe been one of our issues. I think we've not been clinical enough this season, and that the 9-0 against Bournemouth notwithstanding, it was just that day they were cannon fodder and everything we hit went in. But
yeah, in
general terms, we've not scored a lot of goals of games this season. I know somebody will probably sort of say, well, what about 7-1 against Rangers? Again, we went behind, we got the thing, and then the second half, it felt like everything we hit went in. So it feels like we're struggling to score more than 1 or 2 goals, albeit we generally create a lot of good chances in the game. I think that for me in that West Ham game, because you mentioned it, Randy, around I guess the intensity level, there was always going to be a drop in my view, because the games against Man City are at such a level. So in my mind, I was always worried about that West Ham game coming straight after the City game. And I actually thought the level of intent, I mean, it wasn't like the City game, but actually, particularly in the first half, I thought we did have a reasonably good level of intensity. The issue for me is I think that faded in the second half, as well as West Ham ramping up. Plus the fact that, we lost Jota in the Man City game. We didn't have Konate. We then had to, change players because, somebody else wasn't well, and one thing and another. You couldn't play Milner again. You brought Alexander-Arnold in and stuff, but so there were some sort of expected changes, but then you come, we'll come on to. I know we'll talk about the Champions League in a bit, but maybe if we jump to the Forest game now, because clearly that the result of that was not what we were expecting. But I can still see Van Dijk heading that ball across the goal towards Firmino when the goal is gaping in front.
I still don't understand that.
And I'm still bemused at what his decision-making process was at that point. Because actually we didn't play badly in the first half in that. But again, we'd lost 2 more players. So we had no Thiago, we had no Nunes. We had and they keep shuffling the pack, but the number of cards in the deck keeps reducing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not saying there was an inevitability about it, because I would have expected us to have got something out of that game. I don't know, Amy Kay, what did you make of it?
Well, I did struggle to actually. I had a really bad connection, so there was bits of it that I missed. To be fair, but I
Probably
felt
not
like,
a bad thing in this case.
well, and mind you, it was 4:30 in the morning for me.
Exactly.
So it was already, stacked against me. But I felt like it was lackluster. We just were off. And don't get me wrong, like you said, all the injuries and all the things that we're going through right now. But it just, and give credit to Forest. They might be at the bottom of the table, but like I mentioned to us when we were talking beforehand, there was a stat that was put out there that we've played them over the years 5 other times, only 5 times, and we've never won there. And I remember hearing that in the beginning, and it kind of like, I don't know, it kind of messed with my confidence. And I wonder if it messed with theirs, knowing, that this is a place we've never won. And give credit to Forest, because they played a great game. But, it was just really hard to watch. And, I remember the first half, at halftime, they talked about there was 5 shots, 4 or 3 on target, but we still didn't score. We were back in that mode of, we're going for it, but we're not lucky enough. We're not precise enough. We're not playing the way we should, and we know how to. And we've got a great team, but in our bench is really deep. So it's not like, it's because we've got crap players. That's not the case. It's just I don't know what's going on, but this has been just a really, really rough season, and it's really hard to watch. But I will still get up at 4:30 in the morning and support my team.
I know you will, and more power to you for doing that. I know you mentioned it earlier, Randy. So come on, get it off your chest. Get the Forest game off your chest.
No, but the thing was, I was dreading this because, of course, all these stats and all this and that, and they were desperate for points. And of course, what situation better than the big game against Liverpool, And you had their goal scorer, Iobi, or how you call him, that used to be Liverpool. You could see how much that meant to him. I thought he looked brilliant. I was really irritated that we let him go.
Because that will be his game of the season. You mark my words.
Of course it was. And I thought he was very, very good. So I felt that he should have been in our team, to be honest. And of course, you had the things about their left back. What's his name again? That used to be ours. And it was all written that this should be their revenge in some way or another. And I thought maybe we'll draw then. I didn't really think it was a possibility that we would lose. And Klopp said after the match that, the match was decided by 2 set pieces. We didn't use ours and they used theirs. But it can't be as simple as that, because I didn't recognise Liverpool. Our strikers was laying there next to their big defenders. Our tiny, tiny front line was clinched in close up to their defenders. We were very slow in the build-up. We didn't have any counterattacks. We didn't do anything of our strengths at all. And we were just very slow and very sort of, especially in the second half, of course. So I didn't look like our midfield at all, because, of course, when Thiago is not there and we can't, every other game, Fabinho doesn't work anymore. So when Jones is there and Elliot and, we had all these kids, I really don't think we should rest on them. I was lacking Hendo there. There was so much that didn't look good, even though we did start well, as you said. But we were just trying over and over again things that didn't work, and it looked really, really weird, I must say. I'm confused. by how we played that game, I must say.
Maybe we just have to, put it down to a bad day at the office.
Very,
Maybe,
very bad day at the
Yeah.
office.
maybe it's just that simple.
Yeah,
Even-
and Virgil, the header, you could see he had planned for so long to take it, to give it to Bobby. It was all in his head. He didn't even look at the goal. All he did was look over to where he had planned that ball to go. I'm sure that if he looks back at it now, if he only looked at the goal, he could see it's fucking open.
Yeah.
And he usually does this really, really well, doesn't he? His headers are lethal, but not this time. No, he had a plan.
That was just so confusing to see. You're just like, what are you doing? Like, what's your thought process there? Like,
of course, this can happen, but it was just looked so weird, didn't it?
It did. It just didn't. It was not what you expected from him. And like you said, I mean, his headers are phenomenal. It was just, you made a good point, and maybe that's it. That he had it planned, and he didn't realize where he was. That he didn't need to do that. He could have done it himself. I don't think it was. I don't know. That was. You're right. That was just weird to see. Like, that was just the weirdest thing, and that's one thing I remember. Of all, it was like, what? Why? What was that?
No, I know. So, I mean, 3 games, 6 points out of 9, which is okay, but it's not the return we were hoping for. But nobody gets. The irony is that loads of people never thought we'd get anything out of the City game.
Right.
We beat them, we beat West Ham, and we lose to the team at the bottom of the table. So
exactly.
it's that sort of season at the moment. So we now got a small hiatus. We go back into the Champions League. So we've got Ajax away on Wednesday, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And since that opening game against Napoli, where we just got our asses handed to us, frankly, we've won every game.
Yeah.
So we're in a much better place than I wasn't sure how Ajax were going to turn up, but I think their model obviously is that they sort of sell every season some of their best players. So I think that they're probably not as strong a team as they were a couple of seasons ago. But going to the Ajax arena, going away, we haven't won away in the Premier League so far this season. But we did beat Rangers 7-1 in Glasgow. So let's start with you, Randy. What are your thoughts about the forthcoming game against Ajax?
I think maybe the fact that it is a Champions League match is going to be good for us, because it's like, I don't know how this works, because for me it doesn't make a change, it doesn't make a difference, but for them clearly it is. Oh, this is Champions League. This is completely different. Let's go there and do something. It feels like that's their attitude. So hopefully they'll get back to winning ways. And as you said, I don't think Ajax is the team it was. So I'm hopeful that we'll get something there. And I definitely think we should, because we can't count on us getting anything against Napoli, which is flying. I mean, they're flying. They are so, so good. So I really hope we get something here. It might just be, 2-1 or whatever. But I think they're up for it, hopefully. I mean, if we've got any players left, for me, it's going to make a big difference.
Thing, isn't it? About, who's in the squad.
Who's fit.
Who's available.
If we have Nunez, do we have Thiago and Nunez? That would help big time. Maybe Trent even.
So Trent should be in the squad. There shouldn't be an issue with Trent, to the best of my knowledge. So we should have Robbo and Trent. We should have Virgin and Joe. I'm not sure whether Canate will be back or not. And they said Matip was a couple of weeks away, so I don't think Matip will be available.
Well, Klopp did say that Konate was going to train now.
Yeah, so I think Canate may be in the squad, possibly.
Okay.
Thiago, I don't know because of this ear infection. Don't know how long it might take to clean up. Because he must have had balance and vertigo issues.
Yeah.
Because he was ruled out on the day of the game. So I don't know the recovery of that. So it's possible, but let me say I would be surprised. I think if he's available in the squad for the Ajax game. Endo, Milner, Elliott, Curtis Jones and Oxlade-Chamberlain are all available in midfield. To the best of my knowledge, so this is me telling you to the best of my knowledge, right?
Yeah.
They've still got 2 training days to go, but to the best of my knowledge, that those are options in midfield, and I've probably forgotten somebody. But Bajcetic, is it the young winger? I think it's been put in our squad of 25, but not 100% sure. It's up front. I think we're struggling now. We're running
it is.
players. So I don't know. Nunes was a hamstring, so I've genuinely got no idea. I think we're left with Bobby and Salah. Carvalho, or maybe I guess you could put Elliot up there. We are
not bad options to have, though. Let's be clear.
Yeah, not bad options at all. All I'm saying is that there's not a lot to come off the bench.
Right. No, exactly.
Want to make a choice.
A bit sad.
In terms of a starting front line, then yeah, you'd go, yeah, great. But there's no Jota, no Diaz, potentially no Nunes. We've suddenly got very short very quickly up front. Right. And that's the thing that I think is just slightly concerning. But we've got kind of 3 weeks or so to get through before we break for the World Cup. And I think if we can just hold on, get a couple more, squeeze a couple more Premier League victories out, and if we get the result against Ajax, we're through. In second place, like you say, Napoli are flying. But as I said before the Man City game to my friends, because everybody had written us off, I said, this team does weird things. We could quite potentially get a result today because everybody's written us off. That could happen against Napoli. I'm not saying it will, but I'm saying it could. The issue is we'd have to at least match their result against us. So we'd have to, so if we beat them 4-0, for example, and we didn't concede, then we would top the group. Now, the way Napoli are playing, how likely is that? Probably not likely. But you know what? Nobody thought we could beat Barcelona 4-0. Right. Having said that, our team is in a different position than it was then. This is a team definitely in transition, with players that are kind of, adjusting to playing for Liverpool Football Club and others at the end. And we probably are missing a couple of, we know we're missing some people in our front line, but we're missing a couple of, I would say, experienced, creative people in their sort of mid to late 20s. If I look at the sort of age profile of what we've got, in my humble opinion.
It's true though. I mean, we've got amazing players, but they're on their last years. Not everybody can be a Milner, I wouldn't be surprised if Milner puts one more year in. But I keep saying that every year. One more year, Milner. I mean, the way he's definitely enigma, because players don't outside of keepers, players don't play like that. You know, there's a few of them, but I mean, he still wins all the tests, the fitness tests. I mean, he's just a beast. But at the same time, he can't play week in, week out, and we know that. But he definitely gives it his all, and you know when he goes in, he's going to give 100%. So it's great to have him in the squad, and I think he's also great to help with the young players. And I would love to see him go on the staff, and you know, when he decides to hang up his boots, that he doesn't, you know, end football completely. I think he'd be really great as part of Liverpool. But you know, but that's down the road. But it's hard to see what's going to happen when you've got the injuries that we've had. But that doesn't say that Napoli can't all of a sudden start having injuries, or any other team. You know, it's crazy. You had mentioned Ox earlier, and I kind of went, oh yeah, I forgot about him, because he's always injured. You know, I really hope that he doesn't, you know, get injured again, because he spends more time on the injury list than he does out in the pitch.
Yeah.
But when he plays, you know, you remember why we have him. It's just getting him to that point. And
yeah,
I forgot what season it was. Was it 2 seasons ago when we ended up taking third, and we literally had a different at one point it was almost like a different lineup every game, and we were getting, you know, loans and bringing kids up from the academy, and we still finished 3rd place.
Yeah.
So that just shows how resilient Liverpool is, even with the odds.
I think, you know, we've still got that mental resilience. I genuinely believe that. The issue is we don't, you know, when you think about the players that we let go, and I completely understand why we let them go, but you know, there's no Origi, there's no Minamino.
Yeah.
We you know, Gini Wijnaldum left now. You know, you look at those, particularly Gini, and I still think people didn't understand exactly what Gini brought to our team, and he was so consistent and just so available. You know what I mean? He just didn't get.
Yeah.
You look at what happened to him,
and that's what we lack now. Consistent players.
But you look at what's happened. He went to PSG. It hasn't worked out. He wasn't getting a game. You know, they didn't understand the type of player he was. He went to Roma. I don't know if it was on sign or on loan, and then he's got this terrible injury. And so, you know, and sometimes, you know, things. The grass isn't always greener. I don't begrudge him going, right, at all, and getting the payday and all of the rest of it. And the fact was, he was a magnificent servant for us. But we need a couple of Gini Wijnaldums in our side. Not necessarily playing exactly his style, but we need those types of players. I think that's something that we are missing.
Lacking, yeah.
So we've got the Ajax game coming up, so fingers crossed we'll get a thing, and then we play Leeds. So this is the rearranged game following, you know, the death of the Queen and all of the other stuff that went on. We obviously saw that Leeds lost again today, and there's a lot of sort of talk around the manager really being under pressure, Jesse Marsh, and they've moved it. It's a Saturday night game now. So being very selfish for a moment, I'm pissed off because that means I can't go. But hey ho, I can't get home and I can't get a hotel now. It's too late and too expensive. Once the game was rearranged. Anyway, it is what it is.
Oh, that's sad though.
So, I don't, on paper, if only we played games on paper all the time.
That'd be
right?
Nice. We should be rolling over Leeds. However, the thing I think is in our favour is that their defence is utterly porous. And, you know, as much as, you know, we've not been brilliant defensively in every single game, I genuinely think we should have enough to get over the line against Leeds. I do worry that, you know, we're going to get more of the same from the away support in terms of chanting and, you know, all of the rest of it, because Leeds supporters seem to pride themselves on being as big arseholes as possible. So it'll be interesting to see how they behave. I mean, Jesse Marsh has had an interesting career. Just Amy Kate, I mean, not the fact that you should know everything about him because he's American, but clearly, you know, he's gone to sort of try and make his name as a coach in Europe. Did you have any sort of visibility or view around Jesse Marsh as a coach before he came in to take the Leeds job?
I'm gonna say no. Honestly, it might just be my lack of paying attention to other, you know, teams. But well, I mean, no, I mean the fact that I knew that happened. And I have a friend who I've been friends with for years who's a Leeds supporter and was happy that they had come up and, you know, for him and everything. So I knew it was happening, but I really didn't know much about, you know, the American manager, just the fact that he's American. And I was like, hey, cool. You know, this is, you know, being American, it's nice to see. But I also was worried because when we had the last time there was an American coach, which was the American men's coach, Bradley.
Yeah.
He didn't do very well, and he wasn't liked because
No.
Americans like to use terms that, you know, I think we've embraced it now with the whole Ted Lasso thing, which is hilarious and I love it. But the terms that we use are different. I mean, simple things: pitch versus you know, field, you know, jersey versus shirt, boot versus cleat, you know, penalty versus PKs. They're still simple little things. It's really not a big deal, but to English people, it's like we've just, you know, soccer versus football. I mean, it's like, oh, you don't know anything. So he's already discredited, you know, because he's American. So so you know, it's like, and then it doesn't help, like with Bradley, he was Southern, so he, you know, he was from Texas and he had that twang, which didn't help either, you know. So no, I didn't know a whole lot about it, but we don't help ourselves sometimes, you know, when we're a country that likes to do our own thing and reinvent the wheel at times. It doesn't go well when you've got history and of a game that started in England. Don't try to tell them how to run it, you know. And Americans seem to do that. So it doesn't help, you know. And I'm well aware, but give us some credit too, you know. But you know, I digress. To answer your question, no, I didn't really know anything about him. I just kind of, you know, when I found out, I was like, okay, who's this? You know.
That's fine. Yeah, talking of, you know, don't tell us how to run the game, or, you know, we should give an honourable mention then to Todd Bowley, or Burley, however you pronounce his name, shouldn't we? The new owner of Chelsea, who wants the, you know, is it UK against the rest of the world game?
What's he on about?
Well, I don't know, but you know, everyone was going, oh, you know, yeah, European Super League, what a disgrace, da 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 da. Now we're going to have this expanded Champions League. The Premier League are now talking about, you know, having games outside of the, you know, playing, you know, this, that, and the other. You know, there is an inevitability about some of this stuff coming. So I don't know what it's going to look like, and
money rules.
Yeah, we've just kind of delayed the inevitable, but anyway, that's a conversation for another day. So, you know, I don't often do this, but so playing Leeds on Saturday the 29th. Amy Kate, give us a prediction. Give us a score prediction.
I hate when you do this because then I have to eat my words. Well, we're winning. I'm just going to go with that, and I'm going to go 2-1.
Okay. Randy?
Well, we just simply have to beat my ex-husband's team.
There
So
you
we're going to win 3-1.
I love it.
It has to be done, I must say.
Definitely. Even more so now.
Yes, indeed.
On that basis, because it's your ex, I'm gonna say it's 5-0.
Thank you.
Why not?
I hope for you. Oh my God. I hope that we can have this conversation later about how you guessed right and we won at 5-0.
Oh, I really hope so.
Yeah, well, time will tell. Time will tell. Right, but like you say, the games are coming thick and fast. So straight after that, then we've got the Napoli game at home. So let us get October out of the way, because like I say, we've still got a couple to get under our belt, and then I think we will see where we are. So we are going to start wrapping this up now. So we're going to move to any other business. Randy, would you like to go first?
Well, first of all, I wonder if we do have a team doctor. If so, what is he or she doing? And I've just heard that we are actually looking out for a team doctor, so maybe we need one. That would be handy, since we're so injured all the time. So that's number one. Get that fucking doctor over.
Okay.
And number two, I can't wait for a window when we can buy some midfielders and maybe a winger, because I must admit we look really, really fragile. So that's my concerns at the moment. I haven't been able to see any women's football lately, so I can't talk about that. But I think they are doing well, aren't they?
So they've got a bit of a mixed bag going on at the moment. I think they're doing okay. They started okay in the league. They're doing okay in the cup. We've had a few wobbles in the last few games. But I think Amy Kate can probably talk more.
Yeah, you can help us in that one.
More intelligent than I can on the women's side.
Well, I woke up this morning at 4 a.m. to listen, because you couldn't get it live, or you couldn't watch it, which is very frustrating. They said they were going to do all these things, but I don't feel like they really have lived up to what they said they would do. We lost to Arsenal this morning, 2-0. Again, I listened, so I didn't get to see, but Arsenal is not only are their men doing phenomenally, so are their women, and
not necessarily a surprising result.
No, so we were playing tough teams, so I wasn't expecting, this to be like, oh, we're gonna dominate or anything. We've been struggling. There's Leanne is one of our strikers. She's an Irish player. She got injured. That's been a huge thing, because she was the top goal scorer last season. So we don't have her in the squad, which makes a huge difference. And I think they're really seeing the difference between the championship and the top flight. But that's always been expected.
Yeah.
And we sit, as of today, we sit in 9th. Not great, but
better than the men, almost.
Yeah, well, we are right above relegation.
It's the same.
Yeah, we're right above relegation. But like I said, it's still early days, and there's only 12 teams, and there's only half. I don't know exactly how many games, but not as many games, obviously. No. A lot of players were off, doing international duty, because they've just announced the Women's World Cup, and who everybody's playing, and that's pretty phenomenal. So that's been, I think, a lot of focus. Of some of the players have been gone because of that. So
interesting for the USA in that.
Yeah. Oh God, proud of my girls, but there's something wrong right now, and it's really hard to watch.
You've got the Netherlands, in your group.
Yeah, we have the Netherlands, which will be interesting. But just watching, we lost to England in England, and then we lost to Spain. Again, they're just friendlies. It didn't mean anything, but point wise or anything. But I think it just shows, how much the rest of the world has caught up, and how the US is kind of falling behind. It's hard to watch.
Yeah, I get that, but I think you could, to an extent, you could almost say the same about the German women's team.
Yeah.
Where they were so far ahead of the game for so they kept winning the Euros, they kept being in the final of the World Cup and what have you, and now I think there is much more parity, and many more teams that are operating at a much higher level. Both, you talk about the Netherlands, you talk about France, I say you talk about the USA, you talk about Canada, what about England now?
Canada, definitely.
Actually, you have, if you look Brazil, obviously, but if you look at Africa, actually, they were saying, Nigeria have qualified for every single tournament, all the way to what the nickname of the Nigerian women's team, because the men were always the Super Eagles. I don't know what the women are, but
I don't know actually.
But you're starting to see much more traction in the women's game in some of the more developing countries for women's football wise, which can only be a good thing, really.
Absolutely.
You are the USA is then as Germany, they're not having it their own way anymore. Where you would argue they were so much better than the opposition in pretty much every single way, whereas now it's so much more competitive. So I understand why
is a good thing. That is a good thing. As much as
you might be frustrated, but I think to use the term in inverted commas, as a product, it's so much more interesting for people to watch now, because actually you've got a much wider group of potential winners and semi-finalists and stuff. So it's much more competitive and interesting as a game.
No, to be fair, you're right, and you can now name women's players and they're not going to be all American. You know what I mean? I mean, it's become international, and and that's a really good thing for the game. I'm hearing Sam Kerr's name all the time. We do hear a lot about the English, but there's you're not hearing
Niedermeyer, whatever her name is, at Arsenal, and oh god, her name's gone out of my head again now. But
are you talking about the captain, or are you talking about Beth Mead?
No, Niedermeyer.
Oh, sorry, I missed that.
Yeah. No, as I'm saying, instead of not just English players, but people like who are sort of becoming much more household names.
Yes. Well, it's interesting to see. You've got, if you look at the English team, you've got you can see Arsenal and Chelsea have a lot of players that are playing for the national team, and look who's on the top of the tables. Look at the teams that are dominating. It's really showing across the board, and it's a pretty impressive, to see what's happening and how that's all coming together. It's just really cool to see, and I'm impressed with all of that. And the other thing that's really exciting is I want to shout out to the San Diego Wave, which is my local professional team, and we are in the playoffs tonight. And so
are you going?
Yeah. So no, because it's in we're playing the Portland Thorns, and so it's in Oregon. So I won't be going. But if we win that, we go to the final. So this is the semifinals, and whoever wins tonight goes and plays for the final in DC and wins the NWSL. So this is our inaugural year, and it's pretty amazing. And our manager is former player Casey Stoney.
Oh yeah,
for Liverpool, which is pretty neat to see. And you know, it's really exciting to see, because our city is all the teams, all the San Diego Loyal, which is USL. We don't have an MLS team. That's the men. We've got the San Diego Wave, which is the women. Our San Diego Padres, which is our baseball team, and then there's Ace.
And then
I don't. What's that?
The San Diego. Oh, sorry, no, they're becoming.
No, they're long gone. But there's also another.
You did have the San Diego.
We did for a very long time until a few years ago. But yeah, and then there's a team called Albion, which is I'm not sure exactly where they fit. It's another league in the U.S., but it's I don't know if it's the next level down, but they're also, so all the teams that are in, you know, that we have are in playoffs, which is really cool to see. So our city's really coming together, and it's pretty nice to be excited again about sport, because it's been a long time. And so that's really cool. And then the other thing I wanted to bring up was Her Game 2. They're really picking up in the UK, and as well as Her Game 2 USA, which I'm one of the co-founders for, and just wanted to do a little shout out to, you know, Her Game 2 and all the ladies that I work with on the USA squad, and then as well as you know, across the way. They've done so much, and I mean, it's just a really cool campaign, and you know, they believe in equality and empowerment of women, and making it, you know, a safe place for women, and it's really taking off, and you know, the support that's happening is amazing. So you know, it's really fun to see how much the women's game has really taken off, and how people are really supporting this campaign. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. And long may it continue. I think, like I said, I sort of semi-jokingly talked about, you know, my any other business might be of anti-West Coast. I really don't want to go there, because they are really winding me up at the moment. And you know, we have quite a lot of industrial strife over here at the moment, which, you know, I'm not necessarily against. You know, the unions are, you know, trying to do the best by their members. The issues with Avanti go far beyond the unions and the strike. They are basically just a shambles. So you are in a situation where half the time they can't release a timetable. If they do release a timetable, then it might be 3 or 4 days before you actually want to travel. You then have to pay a premium, because you can't book far enough in advance to get the advance or the super off peak or the cheaper fares. And then there's a high likelihood they might cancel the train you want anyway. So they are under, I think if they're not already, they're sort of under severe scrutiny and potentially under special measures. There was a rumour that the government was going to strip them off the franchise, but I think they've extended it a bit, mainly because, you know, there's so much chaos over here in the government that I don't think there were you know, people actually operating to be able to run the process to identify anybody to potentially take over the franchise or to take it back under government control. So I just sort of pre-warn you. You know, it might be better as you need to get over here. But it is a fucking shambles at the moment.
So,
that's
just so
sad.
I understand, was because Virgin Trains, is that what Avanti became?
Yes. Basically,
So once
it was the Virgin franchise that the there was various bits and bobs going on there, but basically they said that when Virgin rebid for it, they said that they hadn't followed the process and they wouldn't commit to certain things in terms of the pension scheme and one thing or another. So they basically precluded them from bidding to retain the franchise. So
that's what happened. I didn't know. Okay.
So then it was awarded to Avanti. And as I don't know whether you have TUPE legislation in the US, but basically we have TUPE, which is what they call the Transfer of Undertakings and Protection of Employees regulations. So in effect, this sort of came in, 20, 30 years ago when they decided to outsource services and companies were coming in and basically taking stuff that was contracts that were under in sort of the public sector, and they would say yes, we could do the contract, and then they would in effect dismiss and re-engage the employees on much worse terms and conditions. So ultimately they brought in legislation that came in Europe, and it also came in the UK, and it was called TUPE. So
okay.
I don't know whether you have that in the US or not, but in effect what that means is that the people who are in scope who provide the service in effect get transferred to the new provider on their existing terms and conditions. There's a couple of little bits around the edges, but basically that's what it means. So pretty much all of the people who work for Virgin now work for Avanti. So it's the same people, but the service is materially different.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of things going on. So they did have a voluntary arrangement with the drivers. So the drivers would come in and work their rest days, and now the drivers are not prepared to do that. I think because of various other things, and they don't have enough drivers. So this is partly why they haven't been able to provide the service. And then there's various other things that have gone on. So yeah, it's just turned into a complete clusterfuck, to be honest.
Oh, that answers so many questions though, because it's you're seeing we can't get there's been coaches down or up depending on which way you're looking at it, right? And up and down the country, and I was trying to figure out what was going on, and I just assumed it was some sort of strike, but that's not the case.
No. This is on the strike days, right? There's no, depending on which union is out or if they're all out together, then there's little or no services running across all of the train operators. No, this is Avanti day to day. This has got.
Oh my God. And I'm guessing at this point there's no answers of how this is going to be solved, at least not publicly.
Not in the short term, no. And so it is one of those things where you're just trying to do the best you can, because like you say, most people, because to be fair to I'm not going to give them a lot of credit, but at least we're getting a little bit more advance notice around the changes to games in terms of TV time. So you get 6 to 8 weeks notice, and you go, right, I'll go and book my trains now that I know it's moved from 3 o'clock on a Saturday to 4:30 on a Sunday or whatever. You can't book a train with Avanti, which is generally the fastest and most direct. So there's London North Western, but those trains take 4 hours and stop everywhere, and you don't want to, given the choice, are you going to sit on a train for 4.5 hours? Are you going to sit on a train for 2 hours and 10 minutes?
It is a bit embarrassing, this, isn't it? I mean, it used to be trains in England for like thousands of years, and now they can't really move.
Honestly,
it's embarrassing.
So many things wrong at the moment. We don't have time on this anyway. So.
Yeah, well, let's not start talking about the government, shall we?
Exactly.
Let's go out on a positive note.
Yeah, let's beat Leeds. And first of all, let's go to Amsterdam and have a good time. I wish I was there, by the way.
I know. Well,
another time.
I'm guessing Kim couldn't make it today, but she was on the last time with us.
She'll be there.
I think she's there. I'm almost positive she will be at that match. So hopefully we'll be able to schedule the next one so she can talk about her experience there, which will be really great. So we miss you, Kim. We want you to come back.
Yeah, I know. I have been to the Amsterdam Arena. Some years ago, Liverpool did a pre-season tournament, which sort of coincided with my birthday. And so I went there. Me and a couple of friends, we went out and then we did a weekend in Amsterdam.
Nice.
Shared this story actually. Anyway, and we went there and it was like a 4-team tournament. It was it was Ajax, it was Liverpool, it was AC Milan and somebody else. I can't remember now. And we really weren't. We finished bottom of the group of 4. And it was a very weird weekend, but the highlight, the low light, depending which one is thing. So our hotel room got robbed whilst we were out the game. And then on the day of my actual birthday, I spent most of it sat in a police station in Amsterdam doing a report. And then on the way home, we ended up, the gate opposite us was the gate that the Liverpool team were flying out of to go back. So we were sort of standing there kind of minding our own business, and these people were walking towards us, and I remember saying, God, that really looks like Jamie Carragher. And going, yeah, that bloke looks like Michael Owen next to him. And anyway, literally waves of the Liverpool team like walking towards us, and it was amazing and horrific all at the same time, because I was just completely like gobsmacked and starstruck. I just turned into a blithering idiot. So it really wasn't this moment. But yeah, there you go. So I could say it's one of the most chilled out games I've ever been to in my life. It was I've never smelled that much weed.
Contact high.
Causing people to get up or anything. They were just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, chill.
It was very funny. So yeah. Anyway, so I think on that note, we shall call it a day, ladies. So thank you very much for your insight and contributions on this fine Sunday. We will be back in the coming weeks, listeners. Thank you for bearing with us. I know it's been a little bit intermittent this season, but that's what the season's been like. So I'm not sure that you can expect much more, but we will be back in the coming weeks. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoy it, and we will talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at anfieldindex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.